All right, so today we're set up to do the multi-pass T-joint. I've got two 2-inch pieces of metal, and I've got one 4-inch piece of metal. And we're gonna go ahead and tack those together. I usually will tack that like in this position on either end, and then I'll rotate it, and I'll tack my second piece in, and we'll be ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and gear up. The purpose behind the multi-pass T-joint would be, again, to lay several passes in to eventually equal the thickness of the material you're welding. A single pass weld, oftentimes on thicker material, is not going to be enough to cut it. So we need to put in several passes and try and balance out that weld equally to both sides of the metal that are being welded, so that it'll be strong enough for the load and capacity that it's being used in. So let's tack it. All right, there we go. We got it tacked together. When we do this weld, you can have it on the 1/4-inch settings or maybe even the 3/8 settings, because this is pretty thick material. And again, we're going to just try and do a single pass right down the center, nice and balanced, and we'll see how well it goes, right? When we're welding, we want to keep it decent. I do a dry run. When we're welding, I'll do a dry run to make sure that I feel like I am able to get the weld done properly without bobbing around. I want to make sure that my gun angle can stay fairly consistent. I don't want to get lazy. I don't want to get into a push at all. I want to keep dragging it. So we're going to do just a nice straight up and down, right down the center weld for our first one. All right, so there's our first weld. Okay, so when we do our second weld, I'm going to put my wire just off to the side of the weld, or what's called the toe, and again, I'm just going to follow it straight up and down. All right, there's the weld. It's nice and off to one side. You still see a little bit of that first weld peeking through. All right, if I looked closely down this side, I'd see a little bit of that weld peeking through. If this is done correctly, you're gonna have the first weld barely peeking out next to your second weld. All right, and now we're gonna cover up that first weld completely and then also tie into our second weld. All right, so there's our balanced weld. We can't see the first one anymore, and the second two have kind of turned into a little bit of a surface weld where they're nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and weld 3 more. And the purpose of that would be, again, I'm just going to imagine this being more of like a 1/2-inch piece of material, where our weld size right now is pretty close to 3/8, but we need to maybe do another layer. So I'm going to show you how I would sequence 3 more passes to have 6 total passes, but an even weld all the way across. All right, again, so when we do this weld on our 6, or this would be pass number 4, we would start and follow that bottom edge of our 3rd weld, or the 2nd weld. We can really start on either side, but we're going to follow that edge of that weld and then go all the way across. So now I'm going to do weld number 5. When I do weld number 5, I want to try and make sure that, again, the edge of one of those other welds is just still peeking through. Weld number 3 is still peeking through on the bottom edge of it, and weld number 4 has been tied into weld number 5. Now when I do weld number 6, I have a little bit of a canyon. Not much, pretty shallow, but I can follow that little line all the way down, and it'll help me put a nice balanced weld down. All right, so there's our weld, nice and balanced all the way through. We've got equal sides. The first pass is completely covered up. The second 2 passes, weld 2 and 3, are covered up. Now welds 4, 5, and 6 are evenly spaced and overlapping, again, just like a surface weld. All right, so there's the multi-T weld. We're basically going to put at least 3 welds in there, and if you need to, I'll have you do 3 more on top, so it's 6 total in one joint. Your settings for this should be at least the 1/4-inch settings, or again, the 3/8 settings on the flux cord chart. Okay? Good luck.